Welcome back to Fearless in Faith. I'm your host, Esther, and today's episode is one that will touch the hearts of many. If you've ever walked through grief, felt the weight of loss, or wondered if anything good could come from deep pain, this episode is for you. Today, we're joined by Emma Hart, the founder of a powerful ministry that walks alongside grieving families, offering hope and healing. Emma knows firsthand the pain of loss, but she also knows the beauty of God's redemption. Her story is one of grace, restoration, and finding purpose, even in the hardest seasons of life. Emma, welcome to the show. Emma, I know your journey hasn't been easy. Can you share a little about your story and what led you to start this ministry?
Thank you, Esther. It's truly an honor to be here and to share what God has done in my life. My journey into ministry was not something I ever imagined. It was born from deep pain and loss. I never imagined my life would take this path. I grew up believing in God's goodness, hearing stories of His love and faithfulness, but nothing prepared me for the moment my world shattered. A few years ago, I experienced the deepest pain of my life, the sudden loss of someone I loved dearly. The grief was overwhelming, suffocating. I remember waking up each morning with a heaviness in my chest, as if the air had been sucked out of my world. The days blurred together, and I felt like I was walking through life in a fog. People around me tried to offer comfort, but nothing seemed to reach the aching void in my heart. I wrestled with God in those first months of grief. I had so many questions, so much pain. I found myself asking, "Where are you, God? Why did you allow this?" I was angry, confused, and deeply broken. The world kept moving forward, but I felt stuck, trapped in a reality I didn't want to accept. I struggled to pray, and for the first time in my life, I questioned whether God truly saw me. Yet in the midst of that darkness, something incredible happened. God met me, not in a loud, miraculous way, but in the quiet moments. I started noticing His presence in ways I never had before. A friend would call at just the right time. A verse would come to mind when I needed it most. A song on the radio would speak directly to my soul. One night I remember crying out to God, "I can't do this. I don't know how to live with this pain." And in the stillness, I felt Him whisper to my heart, "You are not alone. I am with you." That night I opened my Bible to Psalm 34:18. "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." I had read that verse before, but for the first time I truly felt it. That was the beginning of my healing. God didn't remove my pain overnight, but He walked with me through it. Slowly, I began to see how He was using my suffering for something greater. As I started sharing my story, I met others who were grieving, people who felt alone, just as I had. I realised how many were struggling in silence, unsure of how to process their loss. That's when God planted the vision in my heart to start a ministry for grieving families. It wasn't something I had ever planned, but I knew He was calling me to step out in faith. What began as small gatherings in my home turned into a full-fledged support ministry, offering counselling, community, and biblical encouragement to those who had lost loved ones. Today, I can say with confidence that God truly brings beauty from ashes. What once felt like the end of my story became the beginning of a new purpose. My pain didn't disappear, but it no longer defines me. His grace does.
Emma, your story is incredibly powerful. You mentioned how grief left you feeling lost and questioning God. For someone listening right now who feels like their pain will never end, what would you say to them?
I would tell them that I understand. When you're in the depths of grief, it feels like the pain will never lift, like you'll never feel whole again. But I want to remind you, grief is not the end of your story. God sees every tear, and He walks with you even when you don't feel Him. Healing doesn't mean forgetting or moving on. It means allowing God to carry you through. It's okay to grieve, to ask questions, to feel the weight of loss. But know this, you are not alone. God's love is deeper than your sorrow, and He will gently lead you into a place of hope again. Just take it one step at a time, trusting that He is working. even in your pain.
Emma, you also talked about how God turned your pain into a purpose through your ministry. What are some ways someone can begin to find purpose even in their suffering?
Finding purpose in pain isn't about rushing to fix things or trying to make sense of everything immediately. It starts with surrender, laying your hurt before God and allowing Him to use it. For me, it began with simply sharing my story, being honest about my grief, and listening to others who were hurting. Sometimes purpose looks like comforting someone who is walking through a similar loss. Other times it's finding ways to honour the memory of your loved one. God doesn't waste anything, not our tears, not our heartache. If we allow Him, He can use our greatest wounds to bring healing to others. Start small. Pray and ask God how He wants to use your story, and trust that He will guide you.
Emma, your ministry has been a source of hope for so many grieving families. Can you share some of the ways you've seen God use this ministry to bless and bring healing to those walking through loss?
Absolutely, Esther. It has been incredible to see how God works through this ministry. One of the biggest blessings has been providing a space where grieving families don't feel alone. Many people in grief struggle because they feel like no one understands their pain, or they're expected to move on too quickly. Through our support groups, prayer gatherings, and one-on-one counselling, we've been able to remind people that it's okay to grieve and that healing is a journey. I remember one woman who lost her husband unexpectedly. She came to one of our meetings completely broken, unsure of how she could go on. But over time, as she found a community that supported her, prayed with her, and simply walked beside her, she started to find hope again. Today, she helps lead one of our grief support groups, using her own story to encourage others. We've also seen families find strength in honouring their loved ones in meaningful ways, whether through acts of service, creating legacy projects, or simply learning to embrace joy again without guilt. One of the most beautiful testimonies came from a mother who lost her child. She felt like her life had lost all purpose, but through our ministry, she found comfort in helping other grieving parents. She told me, "I thought my story was over, but God is still writing it." That's the heart of what we do, helping people see that even in their loss, God is still present, still working, and still bringing beauty from their pain. It doesn't mean the hurt disappears, but it means they don't have to carry it alone. Watching lives be transformed through God's healing grace has been the greatest testimony of all.
Emma, thank you so much for sharing your heart and your journey with us today. Your testimony is such a powerful reminder that even in our deepest pain, God is still writing our story. Your ministry is truly a blessing, and I know so many lives have been touched by the work you're doing. To our listeners, thank you for joining us today. We've been overwhelmed by the amazing response to our previous episodes, and we're so grateful for this growing community of faith. Your messages, prayers, and testimonies mean so much to us. Remember, we release new episodes every Wednesday, so be sure to tune in next week for another inspiring conversation. If today's episode encouraged you, share it with a friend who needs hope. And as always, keep walking in faith. God is with you every step of the way. See you next Wednesday on Fearless in Faith.